I got a question for you. Have you ever gone through a bad breakup or know someone who has? Yeah, there's no getting around it. Breakups suck, even when they are handled with compassion. So here with her steps for getting over an ex is Jess O'Reilly. Come on in. How are you, hon?
Amazing. How are you?
I am good, and I'm happy we're talking about this because breakups, there's something so heartbreaking about a breakup, like a romantic breakup, platonic too, but we're talking romantic. Talk to me a little bit about why the process of getting over that is so devastating. Like, why does it hurt so much?
Well, it's the loss, it's a period of grieving, it's transition, it's the big things like lying in bed together, and the small things like the little rituals that you did every single day, going to the same coffee shop. And then sometimes we're not able to break those habits, so we're reminded of them constantly. You're in that same space, but without them by your side.
What should we start to do to try and get over it? And I bet your advice is not to get under someone else.
No, that's not my advice.
Or is it?
Although, if that's what you're into, if that works for you, you go ahead and do it. And I actually think that's the most important piece, that I'm happy to share some advice and I can share some data. But what we know is that you are the expert in your experience. I am not the expert. I'm the anti-expert. But I will say that we know that, for example, unfollowing them on social media is a good place to start, because when they're in your pocket or in your purse ready to jump out at any time and tell you all about their day and what they're eating and where they are and who they're under, it can be really hard. So it's not as simple as out of sight, out of mind, but that temptation is really strong. And if you can't unfollow them, maybe just mute them or, you know, hide their posts just for a week. See if you can get through a week.
Yeah, because why would you torture yourself like that? There's so much toxicity that you don't want getting at you through social media. Your ex is definitely on that list.
Absolutely.
While you're moving forward, can you take some time to roll around in the gutter and just be really upset about it? Like, is that part of the process?
Absolutely. So data actually shows that dwelling on the breakup can be a positive thing. You need to make space to feel sad, to feel hurt, to feel lonely, to feel disappointed, to feel regret. I think a lot of us feel like, no, I got to be my best self and I got to put my best foot forward. But sometimes just sitting in those emotions and allowing yourself to feel them and work through them is a really healthy thing.
We just read, as our Cityline book club pick, Monica Heisey's really good, actually, and the whole thing is about a breakup. And her feeling like she needs to be the best divorced person that ever lived. And she needs to show the world how happy she is, and it was a mistake because she needed to really roll around in the grief for a while, right?
Life can be so performative, right? And we're not happy people or sad people. Those are states of being, and they're always in flux.
Ebb and flow. Okay, what does one do next? So we've rolled around in it, we've dwelt on it. What's her next step?
So you might consider something called negative reappraisal. And what this involves is essentially thinking about your ex in more negative terms. And before, you know, people get upset about that, it's for people who get stuck on their ex, who say they're the one, or, you know, I did everything wrong. So if you're feeling like you're stuck on the supposed one that got away, it's important to also think about, okay, so what were perhaps some of the off-putting traits? What were some things that didn't work between the two of you? And of course, you want to do this within limits, right? You don't want to spend all your time being negative. You don't want to post negative things about them online, because we all know who you're talking about. When somebody's like, well, somebody did this. We know who somebody is. It's Bill. It's Bill. It's Bill, Jessica, we know. So maybe take a little bit of time, but don't spend too much time, because you don't want it to affect, you know, your anxiety or depression or feeling down.
Totally. And that's when we get into the trap of romanticizing, because we can be really good at that. Like, it was all perfect and he was so good, or she was so good.
That rosy retrospection can be so dangerous. We tend to remember things more favorably than they were.
Totally. Okay, what's our next step?
Well, really ask for help. I think that, yes, ask for help, whether it's professional or just from friends. We need to be really specific about what we want, because when we gather around our friends when they're going through a hard time, we often give them what we would need, but what they need might be different. So maybe your friends want you to get out and party and get under someone, and really what you want to do is sit at home in your pajamas and you'd love to have them there, or maybe you want to be alone. So you just need to be really specific. Listen, when it comes to physical health, when we run into trouble with physical things, we ask for help. We tell people what's going on, and we need to do the same when it comes to mental and emotional health. Reach out and say what you need.
Yeah, I need some support. Is there one other tip you want to give us about getting over your ex?
Yeah, I think really about getting over the breakup is to do a little bit of work on yourself, to think about what your role was in the relationship dissolution. And I really want to reframe breakups. And it's not that I want people to break up, obviously, but as a potential positive, right? So we all know people that we're glad we didn't end up with, right? So this is probably going to turn into a positive. So can you reflect upon your role in the breakup? What did you do really well in that relationship? What might you do a little bit differently? And I don't think there's any better way to get over a breakup than to work on yourself and allow yourself to grow.
Well, I like that we are talking about the positives. There are many positives to breaking up, and we've got a great story right now from Cityline stylist Joy Aceve-Gabriel. Come on in here. I love that you're here. We're here to talk about clothing, but let's talk about breaking up as well. So you went through a breakup. Tell us a little bit about that and where you've landed now.
Yeah, so it's been about a year, and I think in my situation, I was so clear about it. It really just came through, and I was like, it's time. This chapter is ready to end.
A husband, a boyfriend?
A husband, of about 15 years.
Oh, that's a husband.
Significant, yes. We have 2 children. We have a beautiful, or had a beautiful life together. But I knew that I was ready to move on, and it wasn't because there were specific things wrong. It was just I felt the sense that this chapter was ready to close. And I think, like Jess said, one of the key things for me was really moving through all the emotions. So while on the surface it was really positive, I still had all the grief underneath. I had rage, I had resentment, and I had to really work that through. And I took my time and allowed myself to kind of come in and out of all those emotions.
That's
amazing.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to admit that they're angry, but you're allowed to feel angry. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a weak person. That's so important.
And I think I got a lot of power from allowing myself to express that in a way that was, you know, not hurting anybody in my own space. And then taking space was really great. Like I had a chance to go away for a while and just sort of be with myself and rediscover, like, what is this life that I want to create? And I had this sense like my wings expanded. So for me, I was like, I'm coming into this bigger, bolder version of myself. And my last 12 months have been incredible. Yeah.
So you're in a good place.
I'm in a great place.
So you go through the bad and you get to the good. Like, ultimately, that would be the most fantastic trajectory. Thank you so much for the topic, for giving us tips, Joy, for adding to that.